I'm telling you, this is the most overhyped player that we've had at Ohio State in a decade. Hey, it's Juck. At number one, the most beautiful uniform in all of sport. If they brought back the gray stripes, this thing is so far out in front of everybody, you can't touch it. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. Dude, we're cut from a different cloth. We're Ohioans. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. And welcome into Juck on Bucks. Appreciate you so much for joining me for video number 2 on a Sunday, which is not normally what I do, but I think this calls for it. We got some breaking news broken by 11 Warriors a couple hours ago that edge CJ Hicks and safety Malik Hartford will be shutting it down for the rest of the season, regular season, at least. In a trend that we first saw last year, starting with UNLV's quarterback who had transferred there, I believe, from James Madison. And after 4 games, they apparently, according to him, weren't paying him the money that they promised. So he decided he was going to take a red shirt, shut it down, sit out the whole year, and then enter the transfer portal. Because you can play 4 regular season games and still redshirt. You can also play in the playoffs in addition to that, the bowl game, any postseason game, and still play those 4 regular season games plus postseason and preserve your red shirt. So after we saw him do it, I mean, it was huge news. We saw some other players jump in and do it last year, including Bear Alexander was a really big name that kind of did it. A guy who's now at Oregon playing well this year, unlike his 8th school in 9 years, including high school. The guy has commitment problems, but we saw a whole bunch of players do it. We just saw recently Mekhi Hughes, Oregon's running back, who transferred from Tulane. Naeem Offord's brother went up there, kind of the package deal with Naeem, and he transferred to Oregon, was supposed to be one of the best transfer portal backs in the country, didn't play a lick. He just shut it down to preserve his red shirt. And now we're seeing CJ Hicks and Malik Hartford do it at Ohio State. And I got mixed feelings on this. But let's start with CJ Hicks, who I think is actually the less consequential one as far as the team goes out of the two of them. But yesterday, I did the live stream during the game. So we're watching the game, and we noted that CJ Hicks in the chat and on the air that he hadn't played a single snap. And this was towards the end of the game. They had flashed the camera towards him, and he didn't look like he had a sweat worked up or anything, just kind of chilling on the sideline. But at the time, we had seen freshman Zion Grady. We had seen Logan George. We saw the whole rotation of defensive ends, but not CJ Hicks. And I said at the time, you know, that's interesting. He only played 5 snaps at Washington, which I thought was odd. And in the post-game show this morning, it certainly seemed like that the direction he was going, based on some buzz, was potentially shutting it down for the rest of the year and going this redshirt route. This is a huge turn of events, really, in a really strange career, right? This is a guy who came in with Sonny Styles as the 2 5-stars in the class of 2022, following up the historic class of 2021. 2 Ohio kids, Sonny a safety, but thought to be a linebacker eventually. And, many of us who follow recruiting dreamed of seeing the 2 of these guys playing at linebacker together someday. And, of course, that never happened. He was the number 2 linebacker in the country out of Archbishop Alter, where he was thought to be just a great all-around athlete, and he kind of did it all at his high school, but thought to be a guy who would come in and play early at linebacker. And we didn't see much year 1. We didn't see much year 2, but heading into the spring of 2024, last year, you had Cody Simon, who was essentially early on. Everybody knew that was going to be his spot at linebacker. Not everybody was happy about that, because then you had CJ Hicks and Sonny Styles battling it out for the other linebacker spot. And a lot of people wanted to see those 2 together. Why is Cody grandfathered into this? Well, we all found out, Laurinaitis knew what Cody was, and Cody was certainly that dude. But that left CJ and Sonny fighting for that spot. And this was a battle. We were told, look, whoever wins it, they'll probably both play a lot. That certainly didn't happen. CJ Hicks progressively got less and less playing time after game 1, 2, 3, to the point where he was, the 4th or 5th linebacker on the depth chart. And it was rough watching him play. It was nothing like any of us had ever envisioned him at linebacker, and it just wasn't good. Wasn't going good for him. Things weren't working out, and he was certainly frustrated by it. On camera during a post-game little interview snippet where he said they need to move me to the edge, and that became a big topic of conversation, which Ryan Day was asked about, and Ryan Day basically at the time said, we need him at linebacker. We need the depth at linebacker. So you head into this spring, and Larry Johnson lets it slip in his press conference after James Laurinaitis was asked about CJ Hicks in his room. There were some rumors that he was moving down to edge, and Laurinaitis kind of played dumb about it. The following day, Larry let it slip that he's been in his room. We then got to everybody's favorite topic, and the favorite topic we've had for the last 3 years, which is,
do you think you'll have more opportunities to coach CJ Hicks this year? What would you envision for a role for him?
Well, he's with me right now. So CJ is with me right now and trying to learn how to play the position.
CJ Hicks, Larry says he's moved down to his room. So he's coming down, working with Larry, and he is going to turn him into not some third down rush specialist, but a total defensive end. The full-on position, you got to play it all to play for Larry. And CJ puts on 10 pounds. CJ, in his interviews, he's incredibly excited about it. He's hugging on Matt Patricia. They got a great relationship, and it certainly looks like he's in a great headspace, better than he's been in years. Everybody's really excited. And you got a room that just lost Jack and JT. It's returning Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry, and then you bring in transfers Bo Atkinson out of North Carolina, Logan George out of the FCS, Idaho State. And it certainly seems like the opportunity is right there for CJ to be able to capitalize on this in year one, his final year. This is it for him. And this is what he needs to do to, make it to the NFL, is come out and have a great year in his senior year, his final year moving to edge. At least show a lot of flashes that match with the measurables. He'll, get to the combine if he gets invited and have great measurables. Not great measurables. He'll have great testing numbers. His measurables, he's not very long for an edge, so that's going to ding him a little bit. But you wanted to see some flashes, and at that point, he had nothing on tape heading into this year that would be good enough to get him anything but a tryout as an undrafted free agent. So this was kind of a make or break year for CJ Hicks as far as living out his dream. And definitely this story dominated coverage like all spring long. I mean, it was all summer, nothing but CJ Hicks, comparisons to Abdul Carter. CJ Hicks himself said that the team was calling him Dual, as in Abdul Carter. And it really amped up when Matt Patricia came into the picture. Patricia, known for using a lot of versatility, and what's he going to do with CJ Hicks? Is he going to weaponize him? The excitement for him was everywhere. And you roll into game number one. He played 19 snaps against Texas that end up in him coming unblocked across the edge there, which would be Texas' final offensive play of the game, wrapping up Arch Manning. Arch completes the ball. Caleb's able to tackle him immediately, the tight end, on fourth down, and the Buckeyes win the game. A big play for him, a big moment, a real feel-good moment for a lot of people who've been wishing him the best for his whole career. The following week, he played 8 snaps against Grambling, which wasn't too unusual because that was a game that was kind of wonky and you played a whole lot of the backups, but you saw a lot of the defensive ends and the starters playing, 20 snaps, etc. He only played 8. Then you roll into the Ohio game and he's back up to like 18 snaps, but at Washington, just 5 snaps. And it stood out to me that he only played 5 at Washington. And looking at what's happened now, maybe we can assume that this conversation had been taking place for the last couple of weeks, that maybe he was going to shut it down for the year. So why would he shut it down? Well, the season thus far has not gone as well as he would have liked. It's his final year. And if we're looking at the first 4 games, it's just, he's not good enough. What he's putting out isn't good enough to get him the kind of attention that he's going to want to get to the next level. So theoretically, if you take a red shirt and you don't play the rest of the year, you've got a whole nother year, a whole nother off season to develop, practice all this year, practice through the postseason, all spring, all summer, all fall. And then next year, you can have another senior year, another crack at it, seemingly better, right? With your skills more honed, more familiarity with the position, more moves, etc. And that's the theory here, right? That's the thought. And this is really interesting because in all the cases we've seen, to my knowledge, of somebody who has done this, taken the red shirt, they've immediately announced that they were entering the portal and left the team. And as far as we know so far, based on what's been reported, not leaving the team. And obviously, both of these guys were on the sideline last night. So they're on the sideline. So it's not like they're being asked to leave, right? But they are sitting it out voluntarily. And honestly, you can look at this a couple ways. Like, you can say that, yeah, this is a selfish decision from a player who is saying, I want what's best for me, so I'm going to sit it out because it'll be better for me next year. However, from the team's perspective, he's not giving you much of anything this year. Hopefully you want him to get better, and maybe next year he is better and can contribute in a better way, right? You get a guy who's a veteran presence. In addition to that, now he's a better football player, and you're not missing out on much this year. What's it looking like next year? Well, you lose Caden Curry. Kenyatta Jackson has another year of eligibility. Caden and him came in together, but Kenyatta redshirted. So if you can get Kenyatta to come back, that would be a big plus, but I think there's a pretty decent chance that he's gone. Then you've got the youngsters, man, Zion Grady, Epi Satanile, and they will be with Bo Atkinson and Logan George. So those two young guys with those two older guys who are, maybe don't have as high of a ceiling as I wouldn't think Zion Grady or Epi Satanile. So that'll be really interesting watching the four of those guys. You also bring in freshman Kari Wilder, and boy, have I got some stuff to show you about Kari from Friday night's game. And Kari is looking like he's going to be a ready to go guy. He's going to play next year, but a really young crew, right? So from that perspective, to be able to have a veteran guy like CJ that everybody loves, man, very likable guy. The whole team loves him. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that he might be a captain next year, potentially up for the Blocko, like that kind of guy, man. Everybody loves him. But if we're being brutally honest, this is a guy who's done nothing but shown us potential at this point. He was a poor linebacker, a failure at the position, and I don't have hope that he's going to be some dynamic pass rusher at any point. I don't think this is very consequential. I didn't think this was consequential coming into this year. I thought that the comparisons to Abdul Carter and Micah Parsons were utterly ridiculous. Those guys were good linebackers and better edge rushers. I stood on an island with this very unpopular opinion that that lost me a lot of folks, right? People were mad. They were really mad. But CJ Hicks is not an elite football player. He's a good football player, and that's fine. That's great. But he's not elite. He's never going to be Abdul Carter, never going to be Micah Parsons. And everybody told me I was a jerk. But I just said this was going to be inconsequential to this defense. And this is certainly inconsequential. He's now shutting it down for the year. I'm telling you, this is the most overhyped player that we've had at Ohio State in a decade. Like, it's that serious. I don't get it. I don't understand what nobody else sees. I'm going to be on an island here. I hope that he proves me wrong, because then it means that he has blown up and become the NFL player that he was supposed to be and really help the team. And I'll happily look like an idiot at that point. But I think it's everybody else who's looking like an idiot running show after show after show about CJ Hicks again, like we just did this 2 years in a row. No rounded. He's got to be able to do it all to earn playing time. Bash him. This is more about the media creation that has pumped this guy to the fact that we've had to hear about him so disproportionately to what he's done at Ohio State, so much more so than a guy like Arvell Reese, who's about to potentially be an All-American. And I got to hear about CJ Hicks again. Shows, every other show. CJ Hicks is doing a really good guy. And this new age football world has some interesting quirks, right? But I got to be honest, like, I don't really like this. In some ways, it feels like quitting on your team. For this instance, like, what happens now? This guy has we can take out the Grambling game with barely any snaps. We can take out the Washington game with 5 snaps. He played 2 games this year with substantial snaps, right? 2 games. So what happens if in game 9, Kenyatta Jackson gets another concussion, Caden Curry is dinged up, or Bo Atkinson is dinged up? You got 2 guys down, and you're down to Caden Curry, Zion Grady, Epi Satanale, and Logan George, right? You got 2 freshmen, Logan George and Caden Curry. Is CJ Hicks just suddenly going to burn that red shirt and play because the team needs him? If so, he would be totally screwing himself by doing that, because then he would only have played those first 2 games. And now he's missed out on 5 games in the middle of the season of his final year. So that would be total sabotage. So is he going to do that, or is he going to remain on the bench with this red shirt? I don't know, man. It's a weird situation. It's something that we've never seen before. And I got mixed feelings about it, but I think that a lot of people will be happy about this, because I know a lot of people look at him as someone who is going to be a star at some point still. I've heard it already today. I've heard today, honest to Pete, this is a great move, because when Arvell goes to the NFL, CJ can be our Arvell next year. I got bad news. He can't do what Arvell does. He can't play in space. He can't tackle in the open field. He has a hard time getting off blocks, and he wouldn't win that role anyway. TJ Alford would. TJ Alford would beat him out right now for that role. There's not a chance of that happening. He's going to be an edge. And is he going to be an elite edge? No, he's never going to be an elite edge. He wasn't going to be an elite edge before this year. He's not going to be next year, but he will be better. Sure. A year of improvement. Yeah, obviously he'll be a little better, but the hope that he's going to be something great is still present for people. They can't let go, and they're thinking this is a good thing. And maybe it is, unless there's a couple injuries, then maybe it won't be when you're relying on a short rotation and a couple of freshmen. However, the more consequential of these two to me is Malik Hartford. And this one's really strange. Malik Hartford, you ended the year with true freshman Jalen McClain playing over Malik. He was playing towards the end of the year. He was playing great. And it was like, man, this McClain is a dude. And I thought he's the guy coming into this year that's going to start opposite Caleb Downs. And then I pounded I talked about it a lot over the summer, or over the off season. And then when spring started, I felt like an idiot, as Hartford was with the ones and Malik and Jalen was sitting behind him. So it looked like Hartford was the dude. He looked bigger. He looked stronger. He had a great winter off season, and he's bigger than McClain. He was a higher rated guy. It would make sense that he would ascend and take that role back over. But there was a lot of talk about this being a stiff competition between the two of them. And Matt G and Matt P both got a ton of questions about this in the offseason, and both essentially said, it doesn't really matter who starts. We got so many different packages. They're both going to play a ton. So game 1 rolls around. I was really happy to see Jalen McClain starting right out of the gate. And Jalen, obviously, to this point this season, has just played great. He's been great, and he is a clear star. He's just a star. And then you got Malik, who now is in the classic position that we see people enter the portal. That's when a younger guy passes you over on the depth chart, and it's clear that he's been passed over. He's only played 31 snaps on the year. The most recent snap I think we saw of him was against Ohio, trying to lay out a tight end, and he bounced right off of him because he didn't wrap, which is the same thing he did in the spring game. And he just makes a lot of plays like that, it seems. It's stuff like that that gets you put on the bench and keeps you there. You get your opportunity, you come in and make a boneheaded play like that. But Malik, an Ohio kid, lays the lumber. Like, I love him. But when we look at this situation, Hartford, 31 snaps on the year, been passed over by a younger guy. Is he going to stick with the team? Is that a situation where the staff is okay with that? Because when we look at the depth chart here, who do you got after Caleb Downs and Jalen McClain? You got Malik Hartford, Fahim Delane, a true freshman, Deshaun Stewart, a true freshman, Cody Haddad, a true freshman, Keenan Nelson Jr., the transfer last spring from South Carolina. I've never heard a word about it. I don't think the guy's ever played. Who are you going to play there? You're going to be relying on a true freshman, and I really like Fahim Delane, but I would say right now, Malik Hartford is probably considerably more advanced than him. So how does this work? If you get an injury and now you're relying on Fahim Delane and you just gave this guy your blessing to sit out the year and not play for his team, and now you need him and he's sitting out the year, but he's still welcome back the next year. This is a weird situation. And you call me an old fuddy-duddy. I get it. I'm old school. But this feels like quitting for selfish reasons. Like you're doing it. Honestly, my opinion, and this is total guess, I haven't heard anything about this, but my opinion is when we roll into next year, CJ Hicks is still on the roster and Hartford is not. That's just a guess. But these feel like two different scenarios to me. They really do. At any rate, I don't think any of it's a good thing. I don't think it's good that Hicks is sitting out the year because you may need him. And I can see that some people might think it is good because they have a hope that he is still going to be a superstar after 4 years of him showing us who he is. At any rate, so that's where we're at with this breaking news. Let me know how you feel. And by the way, I just want to say for the record, I've come across tough on the CJ Hicks thing. Not because I don't like him or I'm hating on him. It's the narrative that was driven by other people who do what I do. It was so over the top. It was so nonstop. And that's why I spoke out about it in the first place, because it was just based on absolutely nothing. And the guy showed us who he was for years. He showed us who he was. And I just want to say, CJ Hicks, like I made a whole video about this, and boy, I got hated on so hard for it. And you guys can leave me your apologies. And Juck, you were right in the comments, as I was right. This was not only totally inconsequential to the defense regarding CJ Hicks's move to edge. He's not even on the roster right now. Not going to play for the rest of the year. That's how inconsequential it was. So I was definitely right. No, I will not be eating my words on that, as so many of you told me. But I want to make it clear, this never had anything to do with CJ Hicks. I think he's a great dude. I think he's a great teammate. When they had the special needs kids, they have special needs kids come and they play like a flag football game with the special needs kids. They interviewed CJ Hicks, and it was touching to hear him talk about playing with those kids. I think he's a great dude, and I wish him nothing but the best, and I hope he realizes his dream to make it to the NFL. But I call it like I see it, and me pushing back on this was not me hating on him. It was the narrative. This was so over the top. It was all we heard about all off season. It was so unwarranted for a guy who never showed us anything that would give us that kind of hope, other than recruiting rankings, which the same people who tell me recruiting rankings don't matter were the same people hyped up and telling me he was going to be the next Abdul Carter based on what? Nothing but recruiting rankings. They just didn't want to acknowledge that. A good football player with potential. And that's where that's it. That's all it's ever going to be. I don't see this being a big move next year. And that's where we're at. But we are down one defensive end. We are down one safety, which I think is the more consequential thing as far as we move on here to a hunt for a national championship in a very long season. That's not a good thing. Neither of those are good things. So that's where we're at. Let me know how you think in the comments. And tomorrow, if you want to talk about it live, we'll be on Buckeye Huddle at 8 p.m. for Buckeye Huddle Primetime Live. And I'm sure that this will be a topic of conversation. You can come on. If you disagree, we can talk about it there. All right. Talk to you then. Juck and Bucks out. Have a great Sunday.